Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, you may remember, some time ago, the wonderful Geoff from Geoff Buys Cars came down. Actually, he was. I think we did one in the studio. I can't even remember, but I remember sitting in his lovely car down by the seafront, being interviewed by him and having a good old natter. And since then, a lot of things have been going on in the old car thing. It's not my speciality, so I've kind of avoided that. EVs blowing up, catching fire, causing all sorts of stuff. We've seen service stations with them all lined up down the road. The ships have been affected by it or catching fire. And then there was this massive fire at Luton. Was it or was it not? Who was responsible? All that kind of stuff. And I thought, it would be nice to catch up with somebody. And then the very man himself is on the road heading somewhere between Land's End and John Groats, as far as I know. So let's find out what's going on. Geoff, how are you?
Good morning.
Very tired, I gather.
I am a little tired. I am 450 miles into my northern leg of the trip. So I'm on my way to John O'Groats to meet up with Lee, who is the Mac Master on YouTube. He has a Porsche Taycan electric car. I'm in an old diesel, and we're going to be driving from John O'Groats to a hotel in Kendal in the Lake District. We've got a stop over there, and then from Kendal, it's a straight shot down to Land's End. We're going to find out which car is the cheapest to run and which car gets there the fastest. So
wow.
I'm not aware that it's been done before. Land's End to John O'Groats in an electric car has been done, but it's never been done on a time constraint, and it's never been done against the diesel, and it's never been done as a YouTube challenge. So it's a sort of Top Gear challenge, bit of a jolly. So yeah, I'm working my way up to John O'Groats. I'm about 90 miles south of Inverness at the moment, and then I've got a few hours from Inverness to get to my hotel tonight before we start. Funny thing,
yeah.
I was supposed to be doing this in my diesel Volvo that everybody who watches the channel will know, but that car let me down at the absolute last minute. So I actually had to go on Facebook Marketplace on Wednesday morning, find a car that I could buy there and then, and drive it 300 miles to Northumberland last night. So I've only owned this car that I'm doing the challenge in for a day and a half.
Wow. And it hasn't let you down so far.
It's actually been very, very good indeed.
Wow. That is amazing. That is fantastic. How many miles is it from Land's End to John O'Groats by road?
I think it's 874 there or thereabouts.
Right.
It depends which route you take. We're actually going via Loch Ness to find the Loch Ness Monster, obviously. And we want to go through Glencoe because you've got that amazing mountain pass. So our route's slightly different. So yeah, John O'Groats, Loch Ness, Glencoe, and then to our hotel in Kendal. I suspect I'll beat Lee to the hotel in Kendal by about 3 pints. And then from there, that's when. So the first day is more of a jolly. It's more, let's go down through Scotland a little bit. Let's find the Loch Ness Monster. Let's maybe go to a whiskey distillery. It's a bit more fun. But from Kendal to Land's End, which is getting on for 600 miles, we ain't messing around. That is absolute and all out. I don't want to say race because you're not allowed to race, but that's where the challenge really starts from an EV point of view. He can do 210 miles to a charge, and my diesel should, in theory, do the entire trip on one tank. So It's really a question of how long is it going to take Lee to catch up. But we will find out. He's taking it very seriously as well, as am I. And never been done before. So very excited about this.
Wow, that does sound... well, it should be easy, shouldn't it? Because it's all downhill, isn't it? From John O'Groats down to Land's End. It's all downhill.
Well, I thought that as well, but apparently when some people cycle it, they cycle the other way. They go Land's End to John O'Groats. But that doesn't seem to make sense to me as you cycle down the side of a globe. But you get into some pretty strange territory quite quickly when you start talking about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I wish you well. And are there enough charging points for Lee to make the journey?
You might have to ask him on Sunday night. So where I'm at the moment, Lee left Macclesfield this morning to try and get to John O'Groats in one hit, which is a pretty big drive. But the last time I spoke to him, he'd gone to one charging point that was full, and there was a very stressed EV driver already sort of patrolling and about to start fights with people. And then the next charging point he went to was a really slow one. And he said his car had started smoking from beneath, but it's happened before, and Porsche told him that that's normal. So I don't know. Does it count if he doesn't even make it to the start line in time for it to start? Because there might be a chance that the diesel car wins without us ever having to leave John and Groats. So we're gonna find out.
Yeah, and you're already tired, you said, because I think you said you'd done 400 mile or 300 yesterday.
I did 300 yesterday in one sitting, and then I got to my dad's place in Northumberland for 11:30, and then my dad and I put away quite a few beers and tried to put the world to rights. So left this morning with a very mildly woozy head and hardly any sleep. So I'm quite looking forward to getting to my hotel in about 250 miles time.
Fantastic. Well, I won't hold you up too much, but we've got a few things to discuss. And I know you buy and sell cars because that's your thing. That's what you do. Have you bought any EV cars for yourself and owned them for a temporary period?
Well, no, for a couple of reasons. One, everything I do is at the lower end of the budget. You know, the whole Geoff Buys Cars adventure through YouTube and Facebook Marketplace. The most I normally spend on a car is about 1,500 quid to £2,000, and EVs are not there yet.
No.
The car I'm driving now, the car that I'm going to use in my challenge against a £120,000 Porsche was 2,600 quid. So I operate in the realm of cheap, affordable cars. And would I buy a cheap EV? As a YouTuber and someone who does car stuff, yes, but I'd buy it to make YouTube videos to see what it was like. I wouldn't risk a cheap EV if I was actually trying to buy a family car for myself. I think we just don't know how long these batteries are going to last. So although they might look appealing when they're cheap, they're still not for me.
But this makes your test very interesting, because if you've got a top of the range car and you're doing, like I suppose a rep might do for a company where he's got to be in lots of different places and continuously, and the problems that Lee might have against what you might have will be fascinating to find out. Because a lot of people will be going, well, it's new technology, we should be progressing, we should upgrade, but are there the problems on the route, which will be interesting to see?
Well, absolutely. So my car's from 2008, and if you go back to 2008, this car, it's a BMW diesel. It was the traditional rep-mobile. So anyone who was covering large distances on behalf of a business would be driving a car with a similar engine. So we're talking 50 miles to the gallon plus. But what's happening now with business users is, because the low emission climate thing is so heavily incentivized, business users are being moved over into petrol and hybrid cars that are a lot worse on fuel. So whereas in 2008, your traditional business user would be averaging 50 miles to the gallon, in 2023, it's more likely to be half that, which makes no sense at all. So I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine had a company car. He used to be in a Skoda diesel. The government changed the company car scheme. So he used to get 50, 60 miles to the gallon. Then they changed all the schemes so that it's cheaper for him in his pay packet to have a hybrid, but bearing in mind the company is paying the fuel bill, the car he's in now does 24 miles to the gallon. So the business is paying twice as much for fuel, but the government thinks this is a good thing.
Yeah, well, when the government thinks something's a good thing, that's a sign that it's not, I think, in so many ways. I know that you've been very successful with a number of your videos recently, which has been fantastic to see because of a number of things. Firstly, if we go back, there was fires on board ships. Just remind us what was going on there.
Yeah, so we've got the Fremantle Highway, which was a ship that was off the coast of, I think it was Holland, and it's carrying 3,000 cars. It catches fire, and essentially the fire is so hot that the cars end up melting to the deck. Now, there's some debate as to whether it was an EV or not that started the fire, which now we're starting to see is an emerging trend with all fires. It's very difficult to actually blame an EV because it gets murky very early on. Anyway, whether or not an EV started the fire, there were EVs on the ship. At first, we were told there was 15 EVs on the ship, and all the EV people said, "Oh, there's only 15, so it wasn't one of us." And then it later came out that there was 400 EVs on the ship, so the amount of flammable battery material in there goes up. And essentially, yeah, most of the cars were completely scrap, and many of them are still probably still catching fire today.
Gosh, and then there was Luton.
The Luton one has been, yeah, over the last couple of weeks, that has been very hot on my channel, pun intended. What we've got there is, well, essentially all you need to know is a giant multi-story car park has burnt down and most of it has then collapsed. What has caused the fire? Well, the early eyewitness accounts said it was an EV. The early news report said it was an EV. The next morning, everything sort of shifted, and then we were very heavily blaming a diesel Range Rover. Now, I'm absolutely on the fence. We've seen some footage from the back of the car. We've seen some footage from the front of the car. The front on footage of the Range Rover looks very odd. Many people are saying it's AI generated or it's special effects. The footage from the rear of the car, it seems to me that you can see a 2-digit expensive number plate, but that is different to the front on footage. So the jury is very much out on this one. I'm now getting intel. That makes me sound really, really like on it. But what I mean,
we're getting intel here, ladies and gentlemen. Stand back, please.
What I mean is intel. There was a comment on one of my Facebook videos,
right,
from someone who said he flew into the airport and airport staff told him not only was it an EV that started the fire, it was an EV that was on fire when it drove into the car park, and the owner said, "I am very wealthy and very important. I've got to get on my plane. Could someone please put the fire out on my car?"
Wow.
Can't prove it, but
no.
That's anecdotally, everything sort of seems to tie together with the fact that somebody was arrested just the other day as a precautionary measure. So I don't know. I'm not going to publicly go on record and say what happened, but what I am going to do is keep pulling together the information that comes to me so people can sort of work out what they want to work out. I believe there's an anti-diesel agenda at play, and it seems to be, it's murky. It's very murky indeed. Yeah, very odd.
Very strange, though, if your car is on fire, you would drive into a multi-storey car park instead of perhaps parking near the entrance or away from it just a bit and go, "Oh, the car's on fire, I better get someone," even if you've got to rush and catch a flight. It does sound a bit freaky.
It all raises some questions. If you look at the footage, the car wasn't in a parking bay. It's effectively and I wonder if maybe the car was on fire and they were trying to get to the top away from other vehicles and didn't quite make it, made it to sort of 2 floors from the top, and then it all went up completely, and we know what happened from.
Yeah. And also, was it near an exit? Because if I was in a car and it's suddenly aware it's burning in a car park, and you're thinking, not only should I park this perhaps away from everyone, but maybe I should get out and near an exit where I won't get blown up if it was likely to blow. You go through a door and get down the fire escape.
Absolutely. And again, 2 things that are quite odd is this has been all over the mainstream media. So the mainstream media is very, very interested in this story, but we haven't seen an interview with the person who filmed the front on footage, because I'd love to have that person on my channel to ask what did you do? You saw this Land Rover on fire. Maybe you got a fire extinguisher to try help, but what happened next? You're 4 floors up. The fire is getting out of hand. I want to hear the story as to how they got away and what happened next. And I'm sure mainstream media outlets would pay quite a lot of money to interview that person. But that footage was posted on a semi-anonymous YouTube account. The footage is 4 or 7 seconds long. We can't trace it back to a real person. And then you've got the fact that everybody then on the internet was saying, "Oh, we've got the number plate. We know what car it was." I looked at that footage. I had screenshots in Photoshop. I was zooming in. I was doing everything I could. I couldn't get the number plate that they were all getting, because what I from the rear-facing footage was I saw a 2-digit number plate, which would be extremely expensive, which ties up with the story of the person who was extremely wealthy and said the car's disposable. Can you please put the fire out? Now, I've had, I think he's an American chap, has gone through DVLA data, letter by letter, number by number. So he's gone A1, A2, A3, and he's worked out them all. And he thinks he's found the car.
Wow.
So we'll find out.
Yeah, you'll find out in the end. It's interesting. You raise a point there, which has just suddenly occurred to me about people who, I mean, whether that's genuine footage or not, there does seem to be in this day and age bunches of people who go, oh, there's something going on. It might be, you know, a punch up or somebody being abused or a car on fire, whatever it is. And they're happily filming away as if they have no responsibility to actually get involved and help the person or the vehicle or whatever. It's like, oh no, I'll just film this because, you know, it's I'm now media. I don't have to have any responsibility. And it does seem that people do that. And you think, well, actually, if I was in there and someone was duffing up or beating up someone, I would at least sort of, at the very least, wedge the camera so it can film, but drop it and go and sort of go, oi, stop that, mate. And then if they come over to you, film them and certainly be streaming it. That would be the answer.
100%. I mean, if you look at the way the fire is spitting out of the car, you think, hang on a minute, you're 4 floors up in a multi-story car park. This fire isn't getting any better. Surely your safety is more important. And maybe that's why the footage is only 4 seconds long, but I think I'd have been out of there quick sharp.
Because you fumble, don't you? Well, how do I turn this thing off in time? I mean, you know, you'd just be running and you'd see running footage.
And then the next thing would be, if I had filmed a car in a car park like that, I would have got down the car park, and because I'm a bit of a big mouth, I probably would have told everybody what I'd just seen, because the adrenaline's pumping, and naturally you'd want to share your experience. So it's strange that
and people do that. I filmed it. I did film it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I've got the evidence. People do that. And does that ever happen to you, running a YouTube channel where this would be fantastic for you? Were you ever in that situation where the perfect thing happens and you go, oh, I've got the camera, I've got the microphone, I've got everything set up, I just film it? Never happens to me.
Well, I broke down on the motorway yesterday, and I ended up, it's a bit of a long story, but I ended up being the hero of my own morning. I didn't film any of it because I was panicking. I was full of adrenaline, and not only did I not film it, I haven't even got round to telling the story on YouTube yet.
Well, watch that space.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it is a funny game. So, and talking of funny games, there's a lot of funny business going on with the old ULEZ thing at the moment, isn't there? With cameras being snipped, and mobile vans seem to be the latest thing. What do you know about that, Geoff?
Well, I'll tell you that the mobile vans are all electric. They are made, I think, in China, and they're expensive, and there's a lot of them. So I guess the first question is, who's financing the electric vans that are being used as mobile ULEZ cameras? Second question on the back of that one, who is staffing them? Because now the vans were being attacked. So each ULEZ van has 1 or 2 security guards. Now, these are usually people that don't speak a huge amount of English, don't wear uniforms, cover their faces, don't show any ID, and look to me to be extremely dodgy. So I want to know more about how they've been recruited, why, if they are security guards, they don't have to show their ID on them like every other qualified security guard does, and the taxpayer money that's funding it. It's beyond.
Are these vehicles identifiable as ULEZ camera vehicles in the same way as the speed trap cameras are?
Do you know what? I don't feel like they really are. They tend to be white with a yellow stripe down the side, and they might have a sign on the rear door, and you can see the camera on the top, but it's not like it's a great big high vis, you know, this is a ULEZ van. It all seems to me to be very odd indeed. Very odd. Nothing about it stacks up at all.
It sounds very much entrapment, doesn't it?
100%. Yeah, it is. It's I mean, quite how they feel it's okay to. I'm getting to the point where there's I've got nothing left to say on it because it's so ridiculous and it's such a huge scam that I don't really know what more we can do. I mean, where does he go next? What's he going to do? Have helicopters flying around London
Yeah.
to find people? Where does it go? You know,
And,
if you told me 2 years ago the low emission zone is going to expand and Sadiq Khan is going to use what is essentially mob rule to protect his fleet of ULEZ detecting vans. I'd have said that sounds like something out of an awful dystopia nightmare. But that's London for you. That's London.
and hasn't it been proved now that the emissions themselves are actually far worse in the underground than on busy London central streets?
Yes, far worse. And it's also been proven that the low emission zones, I think the one in Glasgow, didn't make any difference whatsoever anyway. So everything about ULEZ, and I mean everything in the biggest sense of the word, everything about ULEZ is a scam. The science that the emissions data is based on, the way Sadiq Khan pushes the numbers, the way the surveys were done, the way the scientists were paid off, the way he then goes in the newspaper to try and say that his science is better and this scientist was paid this so that they could find this and then they could use it in a report. It's as I said, it's a scam in the biggest sense of the word. It's about control, it's about the cameras, and it's about the money.
And most people don't want it anyway.
I'd be amazed if you could find anyone that wants it who isn't part of Sadiq Khan's payroll essentially.
So it just seems incredible then that you have a bunch of people who can enforce something that millions in London certainly haven't asked for and didn't protest and say, "Can you charge us, please, to use our cars on the roads? We implore you to put cameras up and mobile units with dodgy security people. We really want you to do this to us." Nobody's asked for it. I mean, it is. How are we in this world? I interviewed a chap. It will go out yesterday as this goes out. This goes out tomorrow from the day we're recording it. In fact, you'll be on your challenge, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I interviewed this chap who was telling me, as a ex-driving instructor, that he had evidence that the driving examination is fraudulent, and 50% will always fail, no matter how competent, how well they are. 50% of those people taking their test, having spent hundreds on lessons and then whatever the fee is to take the test, will fail. And there's only an appeal process, which means they can appeal and say, well, actually, I did everything right. I don't know why you failed me. All they get is their money back. And then they have to take it again, which, of course, they still have a chance that they might fail, and so on and so forth. Everything, it seems, everywhere you look, is a ruddy great scam.
It is. And I've been saying that there is a coordinated and deliberate and well managed plan to get us out of our motor cars. And everywhere you look seems to back up that.
Yeah. And it's all from the government. And everything from the government now, seems to me, is anti-human.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a single area of stuff that the government manages where you can say, yeah, that's going well. I can't think of anything. There isn't a single, considering we're staring down the barrel of an election, and we're toying with the idea of voting in probably once again either the Tories or Labour. Well, what have the Romans ever done for us? There isn't a single thing that's got better under the Tories. But my concern is, and I don't want to go too far into politics, but if people think that running from the Tories to Labour is going to get a better result, it's two sides of the same thing. If anything, it's going to be worse under Keir Starmer, and I genuinely don't know where it leaves us. It leaves us in despair. That's where it leaves us.
Well, absolutely. And you know what? We could do a better job ourselves, and there ought to be a clause somewhere to say if we're just dissatisfied with it, then The
I agree.
government has 5 years off, bog off, let us run it, see what we think at the end of that. What we could not make a worse mess.
No, no. I, I, I often have people say to me in the comments, Geoff for PM, and I'd vote for Geoff. I, I genuinely don't think if one of us got into office, I genuinely don't think that we wouldn't be able to improve something. Just one thing, just improve one thing, right? School dinners for kids that need school dinners. Easy, done.
Yeah.
We got all the money for all the wars ever. How hard is it to feed kids when they're at school? Oh, but some kids don't need it because they've got the money. Doesn't matter. We're feeding kids. You can't argue against feeding kids. Oh, but we shouldn't give money to people whose parents spend the money on cigarettes. We're feeding kids. There's not a bad way of doing it. Oh, yeah, if you've got a kid, does your kid want some food? We've got some food for it.
Blimey, if the government had the power to be able to lock people in their houses and arrest little old ladies for sitting on a park bench for 5 minutes because they're a bit tired, they have the power to do that. And they can't turn away immigration, or they can't keep the police doing their proper job. They don't know what's going on, and they're charging people and putting up surveillance cameras and all of that. I mean, you and I together, we could just spend a week, sort out the problems, and then the other 364 days off, we could have off. The other 51, we could do a week, and then the other 51 week, I can't even do my maths, can I? Yeah. So that's how it could be. Easy.
We run as a partnership would be the Richard Vobes and Geoff Buys Cars party. We'd probably get a load of votes.
Probably would. Although, to be honest, I don't want to be in that office at number 10, part of a corporation, and hated. But you're going to be hated by somebody. I have enough trouble with my comments anyway. But listen, you've got a challenge. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, on the fact that the car that I meant to be hasn't had. So Lee,
I think you're right.
Lee right now is struggling to get enough charge to get him up to John Groats. I know full well that if I brim the tank on this car, I'll probably get 800 miles, which is enough to get me to, from John Groats to Land's End and probably a little bit of the way home.
You could coast the rest, couldn't you? Just coast that last bit on fumes.
Exactly. So I'm pretty confident that the diesel car has it. However, if Lee plans things out and if stuff goes his way, there's a chance, it's a slim chance, but there's a chance that he could be faster than me. His charging could be free, and then that's it. That's the end of the internal combustion debate. But
except you have bought a car that you don't really know the history of.
Yeah. It was quite a big risk, really, which makes the challenge all that much better.
The big N, whatever that is, might go. Do they still have big Ns?
I think they still have big Ns, yeah. I bought it. I broke all of the rules of buying a car, which was I bought it because I liked the look of a photo. I didn't do any checks on it. I didn't really open the bonnet. The seller actually was really good, and he basically thought I was ready to turn up at his house and just drive home, like whatever. If it makes it, fine, no worries at all. If it makes it to Scotland, even better. But I was basically ready to just turn up and take the car, and he said, no. If we're doing it, I want you to see the car. I want you to understand it. He opened the bonnet and he showed me everything, which was perfect. Because if you buy a car in the dark, in a hurry, at night time, off Facebook Marketplace, you never really know what you're going to get. I think I've done quite well with this one.
Ah, brilliant. Well, I wish you well. I shall be looking out for the video whenever it comes out to see how it's gone. Have huge amounts of fun. I hope the weather's kind. Luckily, that flooding has gone now, has it?
Yeah, I think we're all right. I think there's an accident further up the road that we're going to need to deal with later on this afternoon and find a diversion. But fingers crossed I'll be in my hotel at John Groats tonight. And I don't know where Lee will be, but we'll find out later.
You may be whizzing past him on the way back going, you've got to get to the start line before you finish. Dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
Geoff, it's been lovely to catch up with you. It's been wonderful to go through all that thing with you, Les, and the EVs and the ships and all of that. Best of luck. I hope somebody somewhere will be down at Land's End waving a flag. So that won't be tomorrow. It'll be the next. Well, as I film this, so
it'll be Saturday evening we will know the full results. So
fantastic. Yeah.
I'm excited. I think people are going to be interested in EV versus diesel. Land's End, John Groats to Land's End. I think it's going to ruffle some feathers.
Oh, fantastic. Good luck. Good luck with it.
Bye bye.
There we go. That's Geoff from Geoff Buys Cars. I'll leave a link in the description. Do check out all his wonderful videos. He's doing marvellous work. Meanwhile, I'll be back taking it easy, not driving anywhere, doing more monologues and stuff on this channel. But until next time, from Geoff and I, goodbye.